Hey guys, remember when I said I was gonna have time to make more videos? Well, because of quarantine, yes, I've had more time. Have I used it? For videos? Not really. But it's okay, you know? Sometimes you just need to chill. You need to focus on other things. I'm about to graduate from college, so, you know, got a lot of other things to worry about and think about at the moment, so I apologize for not cranking out as much content as I would have liked. So anyway, if you watched my last video, you'll know that the TCM Festival was last weekend, and I had a lot of movies on my list. Turner Classic Movies is a television network that screens classic movies commercial-free. They have an annual festival where they screen classic films on the big screen right in the heart of Hollywood. So for 2 festivals, I've had the opportunity and privilege to attend as a social media ambassador, which basically means that I get a pass to the festival, and I get to go to as many screenings and events and Q&As as I'd like, and post my experiences on social media using the hashtags and tagging TCM, just as a way to reach out to this current generation, using social media to get people interested in classic cinema and to be aware of what Turner Classic Movies is doing. Obviously, this year was quite different because of COVID-19, so TCM had to cancel the festival, but they did a really amazing job of turning things around and creating a special home edition of the festival. They played films that had screened at past festivals along with Q&As on their network, available for everyone to watch and enjoy. I did my best to watch as many movies as I could and engage in live tweeting, as well as posting my thoughts about some of the films on Twitter and Instagram. I wanted to make sure that I did my TCM Fest video for 2020, even though things were different this year and I don't really get to share any festival-related activities, but I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about my at-home festival experience and share some of my favorite films from the lineup. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to just be focusing on specific films that I hadn't seen before the festival. I can't talk about all the films I watched because there were so many, but I want to mainly focus on films I haven't seen. I saw Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954, starring Richard Carlson, Julie Adams, Richard Denning, and directed by Jack Arnold. Gosh, this film was so much fun. I love the Twilight Zone, and this gave me that same exact creepy and kind of campy vibe. I was really impressed by the creature suit, which I thought was a great achievement for a film of that time period that was dealing with practical effects only. There wasn't going to be any CGI, there wasn't going to be anything added in post. What you see is what you get, and I think they did a really good job. Now, if you're a fan of The Shape of Water and you haven't seen Creature from the Black Lagoon, I highly suggest that you do, because Guillermo del Toro directly referenced this film as his inspiration for The Shape of Water. So watching it is a really nice full circle moment. Next was Grey Gardens, a 1975 documentary directed by Albert and David Maysles, Ellen Hovde, so sorry, I don't know how to say that, and Muffy Meyer. I could try to explain what this film is about, but honestly, I think Letterboxd does a much better job, so I'm going to read what they have here. 2 aging, eccentric relatives of Jackie Kennedy Onassis are the sole inhabitants of a Long Island estate. The women reveal themselves to be misfits with outsized, engaging personalities. Much of the conversation is centered on their pasts, as mother and daughter now rarely leave home. In other words, quarantine to the max. Basically, you're just watching candid footage of these 2 women living in this rundown mansion of sorts that's infested by raccoons, and it leaves out this crucial gap in time of like, when did they go from successful, beautiful women with talent and a lot of potential to living in a raccoon infested home? There's no narration, there's not really a sense of organization to the whole thing, and I thought that that was interesting, and it was kind of a refreshing way to do a documentary, but at the same time, this story needed explanation. I needed a narration. I needed somebody to tell me what the heck was going on. So my viewing of Grey Gardens was a very interesting experience, because my introduction to this story was actually the Documentary Now parody starring Bill Hader and Fred Armisen. Now, when I watched that, I didn't know it was a parody of real people. I mean, I don't know if I could have honestly ever suspected that, because the story is just so crazy. So when I found out about the film, like the actual documentary, I couldn't believe this is about real people. It really just felt like a comedy sketch. As sad as the story is, and as sad as it is to see the women living in the conditions that they are, I couldn't help but laugh most of the time, because every time I saw Edie, I just pictured Bill Hader with sweatpants on his head, and honestly, if that doesn't make you laugh, I don't know what will. Now, in all seriousness, I am very fascinated by this story of these 2 women, and I have been thinking about it ever since. I need answers. Next on my list is Sounder from 1972, starring Cicely Tyson and Paul Winfield, and it was directed by Martin Ritt. This is based on a novel that I haven't read, so I can't really speak to the adaptation, but the story I thought was really wonderful. I liked that for a film of its time, it really focused on the Black characters. They were truly the center of the story. Any outside characters, you know, were there for a minute or two. It didn't feel like they lingered on the white characters too much, in my opinion. It really did feel like it was about these black characters and they were the ones driving the narrative. And it was really beautiful seeing a strong, loving black family unit in a film of this time period when, you know, blaxploitation was huge. This film is wholesome and it's emotional with powerful performances from everyone in the cast. The Magnificent Ambersons from 1942, directed by Orson Welles, features an ensemble cast with people like Joseph Cotten and Agnes Moorehead, and it was a pretty bittersweet film for me. And I say that because I really enjoyed the film up until about the last quarter or so, and I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that the ending was changed without Orson Welles' blessing. It doesn't match the tone of the film up until that point. This film was shown to a test audience right after the disaster at Pearl Harbor happened, and this film has a very dark, kind of depressing side to it that increases as it goes along, and the original ending of this film was not going to be a happy one. Audiences reacted negatively to it, saying it was too sad, it just wasn't what they needed, especially during that time. So the studio, desperate to make sure that it went well with audiences, went back, reshot, and recut the ending of the film. Orson Welles wasn't aware of this because he was out of the country and there wasn't much he could do about it anyway. So unfortunately when he returned, the film was not the way he left it and the ending was completely different than he intended. And I think it's a shame because the film was headed in a really good direction and it was solid from the very beginning up until like I said, like the last quarter or so. It was written and shot in a really interesting way that I found was unique for the time period. It had a very clear, distinct voice, as we know Orson Welles has. And I don't want to get into the ending too much in case you haven't seen it yet. I don't want to spoil anything, but when you watch it, you'll notice that it just doesn't feel right. But I'd say it's still worth watching because when it's good, it's really good. It just really deserved better. Next was Redheaded Woman from 1932, starring Jean Harlow and directed by Jack Conway. I also watched Babyface from 1933, starring Barbara Stanwyck and directed by Alfred E. Green. These were two very scandalous pre-code productions that had a huge part in the enforcement of the Hays Code from about the mid-1930s to the mid to late 60s, covering the entire golden age of Hollywood history. I really enjoyed these films because they feel very different from most classic films for obvious reasons. And I don't really get to watch a lot of pre-code, so it was a good excuse for me to finally brush up on that era. I also love Jean Harlow. She is so talented and funny in all of her roles, but particularly this one. And Barbara Stanwyck is great in Babyface too. If you're not well-versed in pre-code, I recommend these two films to start off with. Oh, shoot. You want to hear something funny? I started filming this video earlier today, and then I had to leave because I had to go move out of my dorm. And then I came back, and the lighting has obviously changed, as I'm sure you've noticed, and I had to like touch up my makeup and then fix my hair again and then sit down and finish this video. And I forgot to put my lipstick back on. If you pay attention to detail, you probably noticed that in the beginning of this video I had lipstick on, now I don't. And you know what? I was debating, do I re-say everything? Do I go back? No, we're not doing that. I'm gonna reapply, give me a second. Just 1 second. If you're into makeup and you want to know, this is Dusty Rose by Besame Cosmetics and Fenty Glow Gloss Bomb, I think. Yeah, just in case you're wondering. You know, it's like a commercial break, you know? We're back in business, baby. Anyways, the last film I want to talk about is Auntie Mame from 1958, starring Rosalind Russell and directed by Martin DaCosta. This film is a production designer's dream. Mame's apartment is redecorated 11 times throughout the entire film, and each theme is so whimsical and fun and vibrant. The Technicolor in this film is stunning, it's perfect, and you've got so many different textures and patterns and materials. The lighting is really interesting. There's a really cool lighting effect where all the lights grow dim and go out except for a single spotlight on Mame, and it's really interesting. I believe there's a name for it. It was developed, I think, during this film's production. It's a very interesting technique and it kind of calls to mind a stage production, which is what Mame was before it was adapted for the film. Rosalind Russell played Mame on the stage as well. Hold for dog. And besides the sets, the costumes and the hairstyles just scream sophisticated camp. It's so much fun to watch just for that alone, but you know, besides those elements, Rosalind Russell gives an incredible performance. The script is really good, it's funny, it's quick, it's witty. For me, really, this film is great just because it's a feast for the eyes. There's nothing like a film with design elements of this scale with that old-fashioned Technicolor. It's just the perfect combination. So these are just a few of the many movies TCM had in their lineup, and I just want to say thank you to the network for turning things around on a dime. We couldn't have the fest the way we wanted, but this was the next best thing, and you guys handled it beautifully. I had so much fun live tweeting in the TCM party with everybody and seeing what people are up to at home, and I can't wait to see everybody again in 2021. Until then, keep watching TCM, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.